Hey guys, this is Tama. Today let's talk about throat tickles and acid reflux. What does a throat tickle have to do with acid reflux? Actually a lot. A lot of times a throat tickle is caused by postnasal drip, so that can be your sinuses and your nose and like all the fluid and mucus back there running down and into your throat. And obviously, when you've got mucus running down the back of your throat, it really tickles. It feels kind of gross. And it can also cause a chronic cough. That can be from the tickle itself, from just stuff running down your throat, or it can be from the mucus actually ending up on your airways. And then obviously your body doesn't like that very much, so it coughs to clear your airways. But it'll keep doing that because there's still mucus running down. So you cough, and even if you clear it, you don't really fix the problem. You still got all this mucus coming down, and you just cough again, and then as you're coughing, you're kind of irritating all of the natural mucous membranes, and you're just kind of like causing your throat to hurt. So then the problem compounds itself, and you're coughing because of the coughing and because you've got things on your airways and tickling your throat. Oftentimes, it's not just normal reflux that causes this kind of throat tickle and the mucus. It's actually LPR. In LPR, the acid can also be coming in contact with the throat, irritating the natural mucous membranes, and that can be directly causing a cough as well. So in LPR, what often happens is first the acid escapes the stomach. It goes through the LES for whatever reason. You have some kind of dysfunction in your LES. That can be a lot of reasons. We've talked about that in other videos, and we'll talk about that again. But so the acid ends up where it's not supposed to be, which is up on your vocal cords and out past your lower esophageal sphincter, your LES. Then a lot of times the acid is actually aspirated, which means it's not just like kind of bulging up as a liquid. It means that it's gotten past your LES and then it's ending up in the air you're breathing out. So you're breathing it, it's ending up then all over your esophagus, and then it's actually ending up in your airways. This can also happen just by like the kind of regurgitating of the acid. The acid goes up, it's still a liquid, and it just ends up, there's a lot of it, it ends up in the back of your throat, and then that goes and ends up on your airways. But it can also be more subtle than that, because you may be feeling this kind of almost regurgitation kind of feeling where there's like so much acid, it's like there's just liquid coming up. Some people feel that, and a lot of people though, who have LPR never actually have that sensation, and it's partially because they might not actually be refluxing in that way. It may be just that it's ending up in the air they're breathing, and so they breathe it out, and then it's still kind of in the air there in their mouth and in their esophagus and in their throat, and it's kind of then you breathe back in and it ends up in your airways, it ends up on your vocal folds, and it's just a mess. So let's just quickly, I'm going to go through kind of one of the processes, and then I'm going to keep rambling about it some more about how your vocal cords work and things like that. So acid comes up, escapes somehow, it's sometimes breathed, aspirated, breathed out. The body then tries to protect itself with mucus. So especially if it's ending up in the air you're breathing, it ends up in your sinuses, it ends up in your nose, it ends up on your vocal folds. It really becomes problematic, and your body really doesn't like it in any of those places. So what it does is it produces mucus to protect those spots that aren't really supposed to have acid on them at all. So you have a natural level of mucus just in your nose, in your sinuses, on your throat, and even on your vocal folds. But it's a light kind of protective mucus. Once your body is really trying to defend itself against stomach acid, which is really severe, it'll create on your vocal folds a really thick layer of mucus, and same in your nose, in your sinuses. So you might get sinus pain, you'll get postnasal drip, you'll get your vocal cords will have this thick mucus on them, and then you'll either try to cough to clear that, or you'll just get kind of like the sound will be greatly affected because you have all this mucus on them. So your vocal folds are here, and they rub together to make the sound when the air goes through them. When there's a bunch of mucus on them, they really can't do that. So you'll have this kind of squeaky sound. You'll get hoarseness. You'll just get kind of like this kind of roughness to your voice. And some people even develop granulomas or nodules on their vocal cords because the acid exposure is, your body starts trying to protect itself from it through other means. So you get these bumps on your vocal cords, and you can have those removed if you have them. It's not really actually that big of a deal, but it is a surgical intervention for sure. They're not just gonna like go away on their own, as far as I know. So yeah, you're ending up with postnasal drip, you're ending up with a hoarse voice, and then from the postnasal drip and the sinus stuff, you're ending up with a chronic cough a lot of times. And so all of these things are the main symptoms of LPR. When a doctor looks at your larynx, your vocal folds, they might look really red, they might have thick mucus on them, they might be inflamed, swollen. That's a pretty good sign that acid reflux, LPR, is causing the kind of, voice symptoms you might be having. A lot of people who have the voice symptoms of LPR don't always have actual reflux symptoms. They might have a choking sensation, they might have a really severe cough. You might even, I had all of the symptoms basically, and one of the most bothersome was I would wake up in the night choking, like feeling like I'm suffocating, and that is a major, major sign of LPR. I thought it was nightmares for the longest time, but the nightmares were actually caused by the choking sensation. I had the sensation anyway, and it was waking me up thinking that I'm dying, choking, like I can't breathe. It's like, oh, you've got something in there that's like, oh, I can't really describe it without, it just gives me the chills almost. It's so gross. You might also have a chronic sore throat. You probably have some voice changes. Some people really do like have them really quickly, and some people, it takes a little longer for them to get voice symptoms. Most people will have a sensation that something is stuck in their throat. This can be just when you drink water, when you're doing nothing, when you're eating. It can sometimes feel like you'll swallow and then it's like as if the food doesn't even go down at all. It's like it just gets trapped there, and it's like your esophagus isn't working at all. It just won't take it down into your stomach where it belongs. And that feeling may or may not be true. It may be that your food passed through just fine. But you just have this kind of lump in the throat feeling that doesn't pass, and when you eat, it kind of like sets you off. Other times you may actually have some kind of swallowing dysfunction that's been caused by all the swelling, the inflammation, and things like that are happening in your esophagus. So you may actually like be swallowing things really slowly. It may not actually be going down at the proper pace. These are both things that can happen from LPR. Like I mentioned, a lot of people have frequent coughing, throat clearing. You might have a bad or sour or like kind of bitter, almost metallic taste in your mouth, and it's often in like the back of the tongue kind of, because that's where the acid is actually reaching your tongue. So you might end up with kind of bad breath, or like it's a very specific kind of bad breath though. It's really strange. And I got asked this question last week about my breath. Mostly I just had like kind of a buildup on my tongue, and I would have to scrape my tongue like twice a day at least. It would just be, it just felt really like thick and kind of gross. And I'd have that kind of sore throat breath. Like, it's not like really bad, but it's kind of specific. So some people with LPR might present also with classic reflux symptoms. You might have the chest pain, you might have like the feeling of acid, you might have all of these digestive feelings. But if you have LPR, you might not actually have any of those feelings. You might just have like the weird kind of sinusy, respiratory, throat, voice problems. And that's just how LPR is. You probably have a lower volume of acid coming up, but it's coming up onto more sensitive tissues. So it's doing a lot quicker damage to your body. And it's really something that you should start handling as soon as you can, because it doesn't really, a lot of people have this kind of like waveform in acid reflux where they get better and then they get worse and then they get better. And it's hard to even figure out what it was. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just like your body is doing a better job of dealing with the constant inflammation, and sometimes it's not. Other times it might be something you've eaten, but if you're not tracking everything you're doing, everything you're eating, you're really not going to be able to figure out any of that. And oftentimes if you fix part of the problem but not all of it, you might actually improve for a little while, and then in the long term you haven't gotten to the core of the problem, or there were a couple different problems causing it and you fix one but the other one just will drag you back down eventually. So I have people fix all of the potential problems regardless of whether you think you have it or not, and then first of all you can just relax, do everything you can, and you know now that like you don't need to stress, you just need to follow the program, do your own thing, just do your thing, and your body is going to do its thing and it's going to heal. A lot of people with LPR end up with their symptoms being quite a bit worse in the morning, especially the vocal symptoms, the kind of throat clearing and choking symptoms. Those can often be really bad in the morning when you haven't even eaten anything. It's just because, you know, you're laying down, even if you prop yourself up, if the acid's just getting on you all night, or you're laying on the wrong side, so your stomach is actually above and it ends up on your throat. You might just be worse when you wake up than not. And if the throat clearing is actually productive, like it's clearing some of that mucus, when you've been sleeping, hopefully you weren't coughing all night. So you wake up kind of covered in the thick mucus. And so it just takes a while of your day to clear all that off, which is unpleasant. You're just coughing and kind of like choking, and just your voice is growly in the morning until it's kind of cleared back up, and you have a functional level of mucus on everything. And then it seems like, during the day it's getting better, and then you sleep again and it all builds up again, and your symptoms are worse. This isn't true for everyone. Some people feel the feelings more when they drink or something, but a lot of it, those symptoms will be like you drink and you feel like you've got something stuck in your throat, but the kind of sleeping symptoms are more like the voice and mucusy symptoms, and then the eating symptoms can be kind of different. All of these things can be LPR. Some people do actually have LPR or silent reflux and also have GERD, and those people will be just kind of suffering all day. I started with only LPR and eventually ended up with both. So I feel you. Number one, it's really bad to be regurgitating all day and getting like the chest pains all day, and then also when you go to sleep, you get worse and you wake up in the night choking, and the next morning you just didn't sleep very well and your voice isn't working, and it's possible for it to be all of these things at once. But if you suspect you have LPR, I would highly recommend you see an ENT who specializes in voice disorders. Have them actually look down there, down your throat, at your esophagus, at your vocal cords, see what's going on there. If you're having vocal symptoms, that's a fairly easy way to get a diagnosis, just by looking at the vocal cords. How's it going down there? Do they look inflamed? Is this acid reflux? That's pretty simple. But definitely their chosen solution will be PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, which stop your stomach from secreting acid, and that does not solve the problem. So, again, check out other ones of my videos. The Q&A that I did a long time ago is really still the most useful for basically my theory on acid reflux and how you go about fixing it. But I used to have terrible reflux. I have no reflux anymore. It is brilliant. I feel so fortunate, and I'm trying to help other people. Okay, that's it for me right now. I hope you guys are well. So if you're ready to start your healing journey, check out my book. It has my whole method for defeating the core causes of reflux and healing your body. That is at refluxreboot.com/ebook. And subscribe to me here for more videos. All right, love you guys.